It is 3 a.m. You are walking home. The street is empty ahead of you. Someone falls hard. They don't get up. You stop. You look around. There are 12 other people on this street. All of them see it. All of them stopped. All of them are looking at the person on the ground. And none of them are moving. So you don't move either. Someone else will handle it. There are 12 people here. Surely someone will call. Surely someone already called. You stand there for another 30 seconds. So does everyone else. The person on the ground still hasn't moved. And in that moment, without knowing it, you have just demonstrated one of the most dangerous and most documented failures in the history of human psychology. March 13th, 1964, New York City. 3:15 in the morning. A 28-year-old woman named Kitty Genovese was returning home from work. She was attacked outside her apartment building in Queens. The attack lasted over 30 minutes. It happened in 3 separate stages. Her attacker left, came back, left again, came back a third time. During those 30 minutes, 38 of her neighbors heard what was happening. 38 people looked out their windows, saw or heard enough to know something was wrong. Not one of them called the police until it was over. Not one. When the story broke in the New York Times, it caused a national crisis. How could 38 people watch and do nothing? What was wrong with New York? What was wrong with those people? The question being asked was the wrong question. 2 psychologists at Columbia University read the story and had a different reaction. John Darley and Bibb Latané were not horrified by the cruelty of those 38 people. They were curious about something else entirely. They suspected those 38 people were not cruel. They were not indifferent. They were not morally defective. They were ordinary people doing something that ordinary people do in very specific conditions. They designed an experiment to test the idea. The setup was simple. A participant was placed in a room alone and told to speak through an intercom with other participants in separate rooms. The participant was told there were either 2 people, 5 people, or 6 people in the network. During the conversation, one of the voices appeared to have a seizure. They called for help. Their voice became desperate, then went silent. The participant was the only one who could respond. The results were precise when the participant believed. They were the only one who could hear the seizure. 85% of them left the room immediately to get help. When they believed one other person could also hear it, 62% helped. When they believed 5 other people could hear it, 31% helped. Same emergency, same person in distress, same moral stakes. The only variable was how many other people the participant believed were also aware. As the number went up, the chance of any individual helping went down. Darley and Latané called it diffusion of responsibility. The more people present, the more each individual assumes someone else will act. The responsibility that would sit entirely on one person's shoulders gets divided across the group. And as it divides, it dilutes until no single person feels enough of it to move. But here's what nobody talks about. Diffusion of responsibility is only half the mechanism. The other half is something Darley and Latané called pluralistic ignorance. And it is the part that explains why you specifically would not have helped on that street at 3 a.m. When you're uncertain whether a situation is an emergency, you look to other people for information. You scan the crowd. You check their reactions. If nobody else is reacting with urgency, you conclude it is probably not urgent. They must know something you don't. They seem calm, so it's probably fine. But everyone else is doing the exact same thing. Looking at you, checking your reaction. Seeing that you seem calm, concluding it is probably fine. The entire crowd is taking cues from the entire crowd. Everyone is calm because everyone else is calm. But no one is actually calm. Everyone is uncertain. Everyone is waiting for someone else to act. And in that collective waiting, a person dies. To understand why this happens so reliably, you have to understand where it comes from. Your ancestors did not live in crowds. They lived in groups of 25 to 30 people. Everyone knew everyone. When something went wrong, there was no ambiguity about who was responsible. If a child fell into water, you were one of 30 people. You knew that child. You knew their parents. You knew their name. The responsibility was personal. It was specific. It landed on you and everyone around you with equal weight. There was no diffusion, because the group was too small for responsibility to spread thin. And there was no pluralistic ignorance, because you knew everyone around you personally. You could read their genuine reactions. You knew the difference between someone who was calm because they had assessed the situation and someone who was frozen because they were afraid. You could not be fooled by strangers performing calm, because there were no strangers. Modern life put you in a city of millions surrounded by people you have never met, whose reactions you cannot accurately read, whose calmness tells you nothing real, and your brain, which evolved for a village of 30, is trying to read a crowd of 300, using the same tools. It cannot do it, so it defaults to the safest assumption. They seem calm. Someone else will handle it. It's probably fine. Darley and Latané published their findings in 1968. The research community took it seriously. The public took it the wrong way. The story became diffusion of responsibility happens to other people, cruel people, indifferent people, city people, not me. The problem with that reading is that Darley and Latané specifically controlled for personality. They specifically controlled for empathy scores, for moral reasoning ability, for whether participants described themselves as helpful people. None of it mattered, none of it predicted behavior. The single variable that predicted behavior every time was how many other people the participant believed were aware of the situation. It was not character. It was not morality. It was not the kind of person you are. It was arithmetic. More witnesses. Less help, every time. There is one more finding, the one that should concern you most. In follow-up studies, participants were told about the bystander effect before the experiment began. They were explained exactly what it was. They were warned that they might behave in exactly this way, and they were asked if knowing about it would change their behavior. Every single one of them said yes, of course. Now that I understand it, I would act differently. Then they ran the experiment. Knowing about the bystander effect did not significantly reduce it. The people who had just been warned, who had just said they would act differently, showed the same pattern of reduced helping behavior in larger groups. Knowing did not protect them, because the mechanism is not in the part of your brain that knows things. It is in the part that reads social signals, counts other people, divides responsibility, looks for cues. That part does not read psychology papers. It does not update based on awareness. It just runs. The 38 neighbors of Kitty Genovese were not monsters. Later research by criminologist Joseph DeMay found that the original New York Times account was significantly inaccurate. Fewer people actually witnessed it than reported. Several did call the police. The story was more complicated than the headline, but the research it inspired Darley and Latané's work was real. The effect was real. The mechanism was real, and it has been replicated hundreds of times in dozens of countries across 60 years. The bystander effect does not require monsters. It does not require cruelty. It does not require indifference. It requires only one condition. Other people, the more of them there are, the less any single one feels the weight of what is happening in front of them. You are one of those people. So is everyone you know. So is everyone on that street at 3 a.m., standing still, waiting for someone else to move first. The person on the ground is still not moving, and the only question that has ever mattered is whether knowing this is enough to make you the one who does.